I remember when I was a little kid, I'd sit around and watch the news with my parents every single night. People knifing each other, people rioting for a raise, and all kinds of miseries were displayed. And just like any other night, I would hear the typical affirmation from my dad. "Listen, son, all this poverty, all this hatred is the doings of these filthy rich people. They harvested all the money, that's why we're poor. That's why the government is unable to provide for us anymore." And since it's so easy for a child to get affected by his surroundings, I grew up with a poor person mentality. Every time I walk into a hotel or a big corporation, I would always assume how much of an asshole the owner is, and how much money he had to steal to build his company. This kind of coaxing is called verbal conditioning. The belief that you verbalize aloud to your children will have a major impact on their future lives and on the way they interpret things. Poor people are unaware that they are actually teaching their children how to be poor for the rest of their lives. If by any chance their child notices a business opportunity, he will ignore it, thinking that money is associated with evil and immoral people. Rich people, on the other side, prime their kids to be rich. It's not that poor parents are evil or anything, they themselves have inherited their beliefs from their parents and grandparents. As a middle-class teenager, the unexpected is that I made a friendship with a rich kid. It felt like we were living in vastly different dimensions. Even though we were close friends, I secretly resented him so much because of what I've been taught about rich people. One day, while gazing at my friend's big mansion, a magical thought popped up into my head. Why is my family poor in the first place, while my friend's father is filthy rich? What makes a poor person poor? These questions were enlightening enough that I decided to set aside what I've been taught in my childhood and look up to rich people sincerely for advice. Sooner or later, I figured out the cause for this dilemma. Most of the rich were once poor. The only thing that made them rich is the quality of thoughts they allow into their minds throughout their entire existence. The rich person has a millionaire mind. The poor person obviously has a poor person's mind. And if somehow the poor man can get a glimpse inside a millionaire's mind, he will eventually figure out how to become one himself. A millionaire's mind has a bullshit filter. It lets through only positive affirmations and hinders negative thoughts and beliefs from coming through, such as complaining, gossiping, blaming others, and so on. Rich people had to outgrow that stage to be able to think clean thoughts that will lead them out of their misery. As for poor people, they're stuck in that negative stage where they still bitch and complain and blame external circumstances as the root cause of their financial problems. A millionaire, as I said earlier, was once poor himself, but he came to the conclusion that complaining will produce nothing but headaches. So he began analyzing what was actually going wrong in his life, and he decided to put the blame on himself for being broke and began looking for solutions. Luckily, I've seen in my life practical examples for this, so let's take a look at them. In high school, my philosophy teacher is a great example for the millionaire mind. He was a great role model too. Unlike the other teachers, he decided to learn how to play an instrument. The next thing you know, the guy started a band and became a musician. And although it didn't make him rich or anything, it did generate a decent amount of money, and this helped him out a lot with his financial issues. All of this happened because of his willingness to stop complaining and to start thinking about the countless ways of creating a second source of income. In that same year, I met my history teacher. This guy was really positive, and aside from teaching at school, he became a self-development coach and was giving seminars every weekend. Eventually, this became a steady source of income for him. And as far as I can remember, by the time I graduated, he began coaching people online, and his financial situation improved dramatically. These examples really hit me on a deep level, especially when I come home from school and look at the way my parents spend their spare time every day watching the news and complaining. The only difference between my parents and my teachers is simply the quality of thoughts they allow into their minds. I truly believe that the possibilities are endless if you really desire to improve your life. All you have to do is change the way you think, and that's it. And remember, that poor people bitch and complain while rich people focus on solving the problem. Rich people hang out with winners, poor people hang out with losers. If we take a rich person and throw him off to hang out with poor people for the rest of his life, he would certainly start to believe that poverty is the norm. This phenomenon surely reminds me of that proverb, your identity is the sum of the people you hang out with the most, which is absolutely true. When a person finds himself constantly hanging out with a distinct group of people, that community provides a unified feeling that causes a person to trust whatever he hears from the group as pure truth, and so there's no reason to think for himself anymore. This phenomenon is also known as groupthink. Oh, I'm related to this group. We are the poor guys, the modest guys, and the other group is for the filthy rich assholes. So it's reasonable for me to remain poor, and it's more humbling and noble. Yeah, generally speaking, poor people always seem to stick around together, and that's what makes them poor. Why? Because there's a 1% chance that a poor group of people would discuss ways to improve their finances. You would always hear the typical, oh hey guys, did you hear about that millionaire douchebag the other day? Yeah, he bought another Ferrari and started a new business. The idea, whatever vibe or energy you surround yourself with, you will suffer the consequences of its effects. Fact is, people feed off of each other. They are like sponges, and if you want to better any aspect of your life, surround yourself with like-minded people who strive for the better. That way, whenever you're demotivated, instead of weighing you down, they will bring you back to reason.